cameras are fantastic. I love this.
Yeah.
Very decent.
This is Sony, this one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Same. That's right.
Yeah, so Richard, we've been planning this interview for a while. You even came out to Spain, to the house here, and we were hoping to do it here, but my health wasn't good enough, so unfortunately we're not. So we're doing it now, live over the air. You're in England, and I'm here in Spain. Now, we first met, I'll introduce you, because you were my flying instructor when I learned to fly in 1996.
Yeah.
I wandered into a flying school with a heap of cash, wanting to get my pilot's license, and I said, I want to learn to fly. Chief instructor got me up for a couple of flights, assessed my ability, and he said, right, this is Richard. Richard is going to do all your lessons of it all the way through to the end. And back in those days, we had two tests, if you remember, the navigation flight test and the general flight test. And then that was it. You got your pilot's license, and that was it. And you yourself were on a path to become an airline pilot.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
right.
Became an airline pilot and a captain of an airline. And you were flying the same aeroplane as Scully. Remember Scully? What was the actor called in the film who did Scully? I do know it. I can't think of his name. But the guy who took off in New York.
Hanks.
Hanks, was it? Right.
Yeah.
And he landed in the river. And I'm sure you'll have plenty to say about that later, because it's the same aeroplane, wasn't it, that he flew, that you flew?
Oh, yes. I mean, when people ask me, what aircraft I flew for EasyJet, I say the same one that landed in the Hudson River. People immediately know what aircraft it was.
Tom Hanks.
That
was a brilliant film.
Any more than that, really. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we always have a big inquest into these things, and I watched the film. They actually made a film called Scully. It was Tom Hanks that was in it, and it was brilliant. Really good film. If you're into airplanes, it was fantastic. It's very good the way the pilots react, and because they don't know what's happening. There's a big gap, isn't there, between something's happened, what's happened. But you've got computers nowadays, haven't you, on the dash to say this has happened, do this, or something similar. I don't know.
Yes, I mean, depending on the severity of the failure, and obviously in that case it was a significant failure, a double engine failure, although they did still have some power, I understand. I haven't read the full report, would you believe? And I actually haven't seen the film. I've just heard a lot about it. And I still, to this day, want to see the film. And because it's quite interesting, because I think they concentrated, didn't they, about the aftermath of that situation and landing in the Hudson River. But I mean, he did a brilliant job, whatever you say
he did.
about him. I think because he had such little time to react. And going back to your first question about having to react to a situation straight away. The thing is, you still have to think about what's happened. If it's a significant failure, like a double engine failure, you're going to know about it pretty quickly. And the adage is that you should always aviate, navigate, communicate. You remember that?
Yes, of course.
And for those who don't know what that is, it means aviate means to fly the aeroplane. That's the most important thing. Just keep flying the aeroplane. Even if you've got a double engine failure, you can still fly it. In effect, if you had no power at all, it becomes a glider. And we all know that gliders can fly. So it's no different to an airliner that can still fly. So number one, aviate, fly the aeroplane, which he did. Number two, navigate, which is where are you? Where are you going to go? Well, he's just taken off and he's in New York, wasn't it? Yeah. And he's going to put it in the river. That's he's made that decision. And communicate. Well, he's telling ATC what he's going to do. So yeah, it's very. He did a fantastic job because there was no way he was going to be able to get back to the airport, and I think that was the basis upon which the investigation.
Yeah.
Well, part of the investigation was why didn't you go back to the airport? Well, of course, most of us pilots, and including yourself, of course, know that it's probably not the right thing to do.
Back to the airport, then it's different. But if you doubt you can get back to the airport, then you've got to make that split-second decision.
Well, you have, and I think you probably would be thinking about that at the briefing stage on the ground. What if we get a critical engine failure, either before V1 on the ground, which is a critical point at which you have to make a decision to stop or go, and it's all calculated anyway, and so it's always in your mind. And then once airborne, where we're going to go if we get a problem, and he probably had it already in mind what he was going to do. Maybe not to go into the Hudson River because he probably wasn't anticipating necessarily a double engine failure at such a low altitude, relatively low altitude. But obviously he flew the aeroplane, so the first thing he would have needed to have done was to lower the nose to keep the airspeed and keep the airflow flowing over the wings so that you still got lift. You could still maneuver the aeroplane and then decide where you're going to go. So he's flying the airplane, he's navigating it. I've made the decision fairly quickly to put it into the river because that's the only place he could see he could put it. And then let our traffic control know his intentions. But it's, you have, for a double engine failure, for example, you have quite a prolonged checklist to run through with a view to trying to start the engines again, but he hasn't got the time to do it.
No.
And the only thing
his communications with air traffic control was extremely brief. I mean, he just said, I'm going in the river, I'm going in the Hudson. I think that's about it. He didn't say anything else. No. Other people relayed that back to, but you're right, they're the priorities. Aviate, navigate, and communicate comes last.
So absolutely. So the first thing he's got to do is fly the airplane. Regardless of it doesn't matter what the failure is, and obviously critical in this case, probably the worst failure you can have. There's a double engine failure, not even a single engine, because on a single engine you can still fly the airplane. But a double engine failure, you've got to put it down somewhere. So straight away recognise it. Fly the airplane. Where are you going to put it? He's made up his mind pretty quickly. There's no open space. He's got to put it in the river. That's the best chance of survival. Without any major kind of casualties on the ground. So
there would have been a lot.
And then let ATC know. So yeah, exactly. So
Now tell me something. Have you ever tried to reenact it in your A320 simulator? Have you ever tried to land it in the Hudson?
Yeah, I mean, only.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes, we of course. As soon as this happened, we thought, well, how is it? Let's try it. Let's have a go and see how we would fare. And more often than not, you get to the river, and I think it can't replicate, exactly. What actually happened, but it's pretty close to it, and everything in the simulator, and as far as that airport was concerned, is generic, which means it's a kind of it's a made up kind of visual display, if you like. It's not truly representative of what it's like, and for me, I remember having the engine failure or double engine failure on takeoff, and in the simulator, of course, and heading for the river straight away. And I remember, because it was just a straight long river, the visuals were that and the graphics were such that it was just a straight bit of water, quite narrow.
Yeah.
And in the far distance, I could see a jetty just sticking out from the right hand side.
Okay.
So I put the airplane down. I mean, you can't replicate landing on water very well in the simulator, but put it down. There's a technique to it. You're supposed to land with 15 degrees nose up, and belly flop the airplane onto the water. Very simply put. So it's sort of kind of pitch your nose up and then just allow, sort of just land like that, basically. So that, once the tail hits the tail section hits the water, then it'll naturally flop down. Anyway, put it into the water. How true truly representative it was. As I say, I don't know, but we were slowing down on the water, and the jetty was getting closer and closer. And as we'd almost slowed to about 10 knots, the aeroplane slewed round and parked alongside the jetty. I thought it was perfect. I thought I couldn't do that again, and it would happen in real life.
A few
All the passengers, on the right hand side, off you go onto the jetty. It's bus waiting for you.
Excellent.
But it was, we all tried it because I think it was trying to represent, trying to replicate what happened to him, and the emphasis was on such little time to make those decisions. As you say, you've got to fly the airplane, decide where you're going to go, let ATC know, and just do it. So
yeah. I mean, if you had a double engine failure at 30,000 feet, you'd have a lot more time to
exactly
know what you're going to do and deal with it. But this guy was only minutes away from takeoff, wasn't he?
Exactly. I mean,
he didn't have height. He had nothing in his advantage. Can you think of anything that you would have done that he didn't do?
No, I think he's a bit of a role model, really, because nobody's ever done it before. I mean, he did a brilliant job, of getting their airplane down, and everybody survived, which is most important.
It was a massive success story, wasn't it? Everybody,
really good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The guy should have had an Aviation Legend Award. I'm sure he did. He must have done, and if he didn't, he deserves one for sure.
Sorry, say that again, Graham.
I'm sure he should have had an Aviation Legend Award or some sort.
I don't know, but yeah, for sure. I mean, he was. If it hadn't been for his quick thinking, and that's down to experience as much as anything else, then it could have been a lot worse. And it was a successful outcome, actually. Yeah, nobody.
Have you ever had an engine failure or something serious in flight in your experience?
No, and I've got about 12,000 hours experience flying, and I think the only major, in inverted commas, thing that happened was an engine, hydraulic fuel pump failure, and that's not a major.
No
occurrence anyway, because you've got 3 hydraulic systems. You lost one, and the other 2 take over basically. So that's a bit of a non-event. So no, it's very, very safe flying.
It's a very safe aeroplane. Your opinion of the Airbus is it's a very good aeroplane, yeah?
Oh, it's excellent. It's very good. It's quite technical, but let me just reposition this at the moment. There you go. Yeah, it's quite technical, and it's you're forever burying your head in the books and learning about the aircraft, and but it doesn't, it's only for your own knowledge, really, because I remember an instructor of mine saying knowledge is everything, and it is, whether it's technical systems, procedures, or otherwise. But yeah, that was that's the only thing. It was a hydraulic fuel pump failure, but it was a non-event, really. Yeah. So, but as I say, as long as you've got the knowledge, as long as you know how to operate the aircraft, as long as you can manage any failures effectively, and there's a structure that you have to apply in order to manage these situations successfully, and you train for simple failures to more complicated ones, highly unlikely failures, but you still got to train for them anyway. And that's the beauty of the simulator. You can train not only how to handle a failure, but how to manage it as well. Which will lead to a successful outcome. So.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of any Airbus A320s, that have really had serious accident, apart from the one that was sabotaged, the one that. But no, I can't think. Can you think of any? You're obviously more au fait with the history of the aircraft than me. Can you think of any disasters with the A320?
No, there have been, the odd one or two incidents involving them.
Maintenance issues and things.
But nothing springs to mind really.
It's got very, very significant. Yeah.
Because, as I say, you can carry a failure you know, it may be that you've got something in the tech log, which relates to the configuration of the bleed air system on the engines. Okay, for example, I know that I don't want to get too complicated with it, but all I'm saying is that, you know, you can carry small defects, you know, because you can mitigate them. In other words, you know, they're not an issue. It's just that you have to follow procedures to be able to operate the aircraft effectively and safely. So that's one thing.
Just for the benefit of people who haven't got a clue, a bleed air system is something that powers something else off the engine, yeah?
That's right, yeah. So sorry about that. Because I'm talking to you as a pilot.
The engine makes something
there, you know.
Right. Yeah.
We'll try and speak in layman's terms, but thanks very much.
That's okay.
You remind me. Yeah.
We'll say anyway. Getting back to aviation legends like Scully, I mean, he definitely was. Your father was a bit of a legend, wasn't he?
Well, I would say anybody who served their country during the Second World War, whether it be Army, Air Force, or the Navy, are legends. But he flew the Mosquito bomber, during the war. Yeah.
And I understand he did 44 missions over Germany, 16 of them over Berlin.
Yes, he did. There's a story to it, and you know, I've relayed it to you, but I'll relate to those who are looking, who are listening in. Is that when the war broke out? September '39, wasn't it? I think he volunteered to join the Royal Air Force, and he was selected as aircrew. Much to his surprise, he would say, probably not so surprising, but he would say he was surprised, but was sent out to America to do his training. And when his contingent came back from America, they were all sent up to Dalcross in Inverness to become instructors. And they didn't want to be instructors. None of them wanted to be an instructor. They all wanted to fly Lancasters, Spitfires, Hurricanes, you know, all the very glamorous aeroplanes, in inverted commas, of course, you know, the must-haves kind of machines that they wanted to get their hands on.
Yes.
And anyway, they all deliberately conspired to fail their final assessment so that they thought they'd get sent off to an operational squadron of some description. And anyway, at the end of the day, the commanding officer, he knew exactly what they were up to. Apparently, my dad was saying he'd come into the conference room or whatever it was that they were ordered to attend. And he was absolutely livid. He was raging. Apparently, he slammed his fist on the table. He says, "I know what you buggers are up to." He says, "You're all going to become instructors and you've all passed." He says. So they all became instructors, and he was instructor from 1940 until 1944, and but he still wanted to go operational, as did most of his colleagues, and he was given an option of going operational, and he could choose the Lancaster. He chose that Lancaster as a first option, or was it the Spitfire? It might have been Spitfire.
That was the Spitfire he put down, then the Lancaster, then the...
Yeah, that's it. Spitfire, Lancaster, and Mosquito. And he got the Mosquito. But he said it was a fantastic bit of kit. Really brilliant.
Way better than the Spitfire, if you ask me.
Well, it was very, very fast. I mean, obviously made of wood. Extremely fast. The attrition rate among Mosquito crews was far, far less than Lancaster crews, which were a lot slower airplanes, of course.
Yeah. Carrying a lot of weight. I think Lancaster carried about 10 tons of bombs, didn't it? It was horrendous.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, he just loved it, and he was forever talking about that airplane. Yeah. And he described an occasion where he was on a mission over, I think it was over Hamburg, and he got intercepted by a night fighter. So he had to drop the load and then beat it out there as quick as possible. And he outflew it. He outflew the night fighter. He didn't know what it was. It might have been a Messerschmitt, possibly. But anyway, he outflew it. When they got back to base, he said that the whole fuselage was raked with gunfire. So they're very lucky to get away with that. But he reckons the aircraft saved his life, really, because it's so fast, you know.
Yeah. And plus made of wood, the bullets to go straight through, and they don't hit anything vital.
Yeah.
Way through.
Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. Just backtracking a little bit, because I remember you when you came out, you showed me his initial flying logbook from his Boeing Stearman days. And the reason they sent aircrews, there you go, you got it right there. The reason they sent aircrew out to America and Canada to train was because Britain was a war zone, really. They didn't want to train pilots in the UK. They wanted to send them somewhere safe, for that.
Initial training. They did still train back when they got back.
My dad himself trained in Prince Edward Island as a navigator, and that was way after the war. That was in the early 50s.
Yeah, they would have done. Yeah.
What was the name of that airfield? Because I've got a lot of Americans that watch. And, they'd like to know where that field was, where your dad actually trained on the Stearman.
Lakeland it was, wherever that is.
Have you got a state?
Pardon?
Have you got a state?
No, just put Lakeland here. Let me have a look at the very beginning here. Florida. Lakeland in Florida.
Lakeland in Florida. Right, yeah. Okay. That sounds like part of the world.
Air Corps Primary Training School. Instructor E.A. Baker, plane Stearman, PT. So Stearman. What an aircraft to start on.
I know. And I was looking in the book later, and he went on to something else. It's probably a Harvard, I would imagine, or something similar.
Yeah.
Closed cockpit monoplane. Because I think Harvards were the next thing to move on to, weren't they? But I was really amused by some of your dad's remarks.
Yeah.
Pilots don't put remarks like that anymore. I mean, remarks like unfit to fly, too hungover from last night.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was on, let's have a look here, on the 21st of December 1941. Oh, so he was out there in 1941, yeah, so 41, 42 then. Physically unfit, it's got on there.
Not very well.
Physically unfit, he says, had bins with the boys previous night. He said Baker, obviously the chief, was wild about it, tried to make me airsick. So this was probably one of his very early flights. So
tried to be sick. I mean, I'm sure lots of instructors try to make lots of students sick. Just don't like them very much.
Out there, yeah, but it wasn't all fun and games, was it? But I mean, it was just. There's some other entries in here which you would be investigated these days. Like dive bomb chappie on tractor.
Low flying rules and things like this. They didn't have them in those days, did they? They just made them up. I suppose. No. Another one that amused me was got told off for taxiing at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
In a tail wheel. I mean, what was the speed limit? We always got told off for taxiing too fast in the Warriors, didn't we? And
yeah,
Cessnas and things. And
I mean, 10 knots is usually the it's the normal. But with airliners, of course, you wouldn't get anywhere, especially somewhere like Amsterdam. It takes you half a day to bloody taxi from one runway to another, or to the apron anyway, because it's such a big airport. So it's usually
you need a map to find your way to the runway as well.
Yeah, you do. Well, you do. That's just the charts. Yeah. But
clear to Echo 7. You think, where's that? Get the map up.
I know, but I mean, it used to. It could, if it was the if you landed on the west or the northerly runway, on the runway that's orientated north-south, basically on the western side of Amsterdam, if you landed there, to get from there to the apron could take you as long as it took you to fly across the North Sea.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge,
how much
you have to allow twice as much taxi fuel for that,
I think you told me those aeroplanes burn about a ton of fuel an hour each, the engines. So that's 2 tons an hour just flying. I mean, how much fuel would you use to taxi to the apron from there then?
Well, like 250 kilos, something like that.
Sorry, but I mean, you still use a lot of fuel, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think they'd allow. I think on the flight plans it allows about 250 kilograms of fuel, and that's probably single engine taxi as well. So, but yeah, it's
That's half a ton of fuel just to get back to the apron from the runway.
a quarter of a ton. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, it's a lot, but your fuel plan takes account of your destination, taxi time and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And this, go on. Anyway,
I was just going to get back to your dad and finish about your dad because then we can move on to other things. So he did 44 missions over
Germany mainly.
Occupied. So, I've got a list of it. I've got it here. I've got the paragraph just here. Where was it? 44 operations, 16 to Berlin, others to Magdalene, Hamburg, Kassel, Hanover, etc., etc. Loads of places in Germany. And he said, because he had a good habit of returning from his operations, I was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Yeah.
In March 1945.
Yeah.
I've actually got the pictures that you sent me. I will put them up on the screen when I edit the film. But yeah, the DFC, that's incredible. And that was it, really. He finished, didn't he? And after the war, he was just in for the war, really. And then, what did he do in his civilian career? Did he carry on doing aviation, or what did he do later?
Yeah, well, he was demobbed, like they all were. Excuse me, I'm just trying to sort my phone out and put it back on charge. So apologies for the kind of disorientation as I'm moving the phone around. But yeah. He was demobbed and went to work for a company called Cow and Gate, actually, and in Guildford. But he joined the RAFBR because he still wanted to fly, and he instructed on Tiger Moths, I think. And then there came an opportunity to join a company called Airwork, who contracted to the Royal Navy and provided flying training. And so he assumed, he applied and got the job and assumed the rank of flight lieutenant in the Royal Navy at Brodie in Wales. So
right, yeah.
He spent about 5 years, I think, in that capacity, and then when the contract was coming to an end, he thought he'd better get his civilian pilot licenses, and he moved from when that contract finished. He moved from the Royal Navy to commercial aviation, and
right. So, did you have to? Did they not just give you a civilian pilot's license?
Say that again, sorry.
Did they not just give you the commercial pilot's license?
No, you have to do all the exams.
You have to start all from scratch. So
in terms of
pilot's license.
I don't know. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm asking you. I don't know. You would have thought if you'd been a pilot with loads of hours and loads of missions and shit, they'd give you a civilian pilot's license, albeit a PPL, and you could take it from there. I don't know. I don't know what the rules were in those days.
I think I'm guessing now, because obviously he's not here to ask, but I'm pretty sure that because of his experience, he would have had to take the commercial pilot written examination. So he'd have to have studied for the airline transport pilot license, I think, because in those days you just study for that, and then depending on your experience, you'd be able to gain a commercial license, and then after you've gained a certain number of hours, and you get the airline transport pilot's license. But he would have had to have taken the written exam, so he would have done a ground school work to take the exams, pass the examinations, and I would imagine there was probably a dispensation to move into commercial aviation straight away.
I would imagine so, yeah.
And then like it is today, if you join an airline with a different aircraft type, for example, in his case, I think he joined, might have been Skyways. So I'm not quite sure what the first airline was that he joined, but he probably flew a Hermes, a twin turboprop, or is it?
Okay.
Yeah, for commercial airliner, but he would have had to done training on that to be able to fly it. So and the same, it's the same these days. I mean, I've got an Airbus
type racing.
Yeah, type rating. Yeah, type
yeah.
rating basically. So what I'm trying to say is that it's the same these days, because if I had an Airbus A320 on my license, if I wanted to join an airline that just operated Boeing 737s, for example, then I could still apply for that job, and they'd take me on, but they would train me up to fly that particular aircraft, and it would be a combination of ground school and written exams for the aircraft type. Followed by simulator training, followed by line training. In other words, you operate the aircraft, but under the supervision of a training captain. So I would imagine that's probably what he did. When he left the Navy, he got so much experience under his belt. He was straight to civilian. Did his commercial exams, got his first job, then converted onto the type of aircraft that the company were operating.
So how long did he continue as a commercial pilot? After the war.
Until 1969, when he actually just got onto the Boeing 707, and as a captain, and he unfortunately he lost his medical, and he was grounded. So he did. He stayed in aviation, but trained up as a simulator instructor himself. So, so he kept that going until he retired.
Makes sense. Yeah. And just for the benefit of the people out there who don't know, I mean, when you get a pilot's license, albeit a private pilot's license, it's valid for life. But it's only valid if you have a valid medical, isn't it? That's
right, yeah.
So I don't know how often you had to renew your license as an airline medical, sorry. Is it every year?
It depends on your age. I'm not quite sure what the rules are these days, but I think up until 40 it was about once a year, and then after 40 it was twice a year. I'm not sure if it's gone back to once a year now, but certainly you have to have a regularity of medical checks. The older you get, more regular checks, or more checks you need, obviously.
But the moment you lose your medical for whatever reason, you're grounded, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it depends on what the reason is.
Sometimes you can get medication or whatever, to get it back. And if you pass again, then you're back, aren't you? But if for some reason the condition dictates that you're never going to get your medical back, you're finished, aren't you? Really?
Well, you are. My father did his medical in 1969, as I say. Yeah. As a result of high blood pressure, but these days that can be controlled through medication.
Well, this is Juliet Zulu. This is the plane I did my first solo in, and we've been up again today. I've got about 6 hours in up to now solo. We've done on a nav exercise today which got rained off. As you can see, the weather's horrible. We got 1400 feet. It started to rain, visibility was 0, and that's it. We had to knock it on the head, I'm afraid. Never mind, there's always next time.
Yeah, so where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about medicals and how long it takes someone who wants to become an airline pilot now, has got no idea, starting from scratch. What sort of money are we talking, investment?
Well, I've been out of the industry for a little while now, so I'm not up to date with it. But I recall that when I left, because I was training a lot of young men and women who are largely self-financed, because you can't get sponsorships these days from airlines. So people who want to fly are having to find huge amounts of money, usually from wealthy parents, relatives, banks less so now, because they caught a bit of a cold in the 1990s, I think, with that, insofar that they loaned out vast sums of money to people who didn't always make the grade, and of course then they couldn't pay the money back. So anyway, I'm digressing a little bit, excuse me. So I think they were paying anything up to about £120,000, you know, to
So
get a
you-
commercial license from scratch, and it's about 2.5 year process.
That was in the 90s, was it? Yeah.
No, it's that's more recently.
More recently. So we're
Yeah, it's
looking
more
at
recently. I mean, when I did my, yeah,
you're looking at 120 grand. Plus, you've got to make the grade and pass the exams. You've got to be intelligent enough to do it, and you've got to have a valid medical for the whole time.
yeah, you have, yeah. So, you know, as we discussed earlier on, I mean, the first thing I did before I did any form of training was to get my medical, because I didn't know whether or not,
Yeah, of course.
you know, I'd be able to get one. So it's fairly rigid, you know, it's called a class 1 medical. And you get various classes of medical, as you know. You need a class 3, I think it is, for private pilot's license, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a class 1. No, I only
No.
ever had a class 3 as far as I can remember.
Well, class 2 and class 1 are commercial
Yeah, it
licenses,
wasn't required,
basically.
was it? Yeah, I can imagine it. I know when I got to 40, I had to have the ECG, and I had to pay extra for that.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, it never really, because my flying career, I never went commercial, as you know, so didn't matter, did it?
No, but I mean, I think a commercial class 2 or 1, it means that you can fly for remuneration, basically. You can be paid.
Yeah.
You know, so a minimum would be a class 2. You know, as an instructor, for example, then you would need a class 2 medical. A class 1 obviously would be required for airline transport work. You know, so yeah, you know, but it's really expensive. When I did my training, I went through what's called a self-improver route, and which meant I could do everything part-time. And so it's all structured. It's a structured course. You get private pilot's license, then you do a very basic IMC rating, which is, you know, as you know, is an ability to be able to fly a light aircraft on instruments. So it's a very basic instrument rating. So you then from there you can go on to build your hours and be qualified to do the commercial courses. And I did those at Goodwood. I did my flying training there in a Piper, I think a PA 38. That's right, Tomahawk, and then did a commercial navigation and general handling test. So it's slightly different similar to the PPL, but a little bit PPL. You know, where you had to do a qualifying cross country in order to qualify for your license. The commercial route gets you doing much the same, really, but a little bit more, with a bit more intense training, really. So, but on top of that, you'd have to do the commercial courses, you know, the commercial written exams, and I did a correspondence course actually for my CPL, commercial pilot's license, and I didn't ever think that I could do it, but I think if you're determined, you know, you get through it, and I managed to get my exams or pass my exams in that way, and then it's a question of really having qualified, you know, looking for the first commercial job, and it's really difficult to get to do that. But I was doing all that part time, and I was doing that while I still was. Is that your phone, or is it?
Sorry. Fiona's phone, don't worry about it. It's fine.
No worries.
It happens.
Yeah. I was just making sure I hadn't got a glitch on here again, that's all.
No. I'm not in a studio. I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
We get disturbances, we get children, we get trucks outside with a beeper and a light going out, and yellow light things, don't worry about it. Yeah, so you were saying.
So once you get your commercial, once you passed your commercial flying training, and once you've passed your commercial, you know, exams, then it's a question of, you know, supplementing that with what's called an instrument rating, you know, on a twin engine aircraft this time. And I did an approved course at Oxford, which was, I think it was a 10-hour course basically on a Seneca 2 twin engine aircraft. But I had to take leave to do all these courses because I was holding down a job as a police officer at the time.
Yeah.
So everything was done part-time, everything. And so that was over about a period of about 2.5 years, I think I did all that. And I took some leave to do the commercial instrument racing on the twin engine Seneca. And I only had a limited amount of leave to take, and it was in the middle of winter. And as you can imagine, you know, there weren't many flying days, weren't even suitable flying days, you know, because the aircraft got grounded because of fog, you know, and it was and you
I
know,
remember well, yeah.
or and adverse weather conditions, generally speaking, and so it was a bit hit and miss. But anyway, I was getting towards the end of that. Time was running out, and I needed to do the test and pass. Get home, all right, supplement the commercial license that I've now got with the instrument rating, because once you've done that, then you can apply for airline jobs, you know. So, and it's a question of, you know, get in. But I was struggling towards the end of that course, that nothing was going right. I was thinking, I got to a stage where I thought, do you know, if I don't get this right this time on this flight, then I'm going to quit. I thought, because I just nothing, you know, it was falling apart, and I couldn't get it together, and I didn't understand why I couldn't, because I'm perfectly capable, I thought, you know, of getting an instrument rating. But I think having sort of resigned myself to, okay, didn't work out on this trip, then fair enough, I'll call it a day. I think it helped me relax, and it just ran on rails, that particular detail. It just went perfectly. So it helped me into believing that actually it's not easy to relax under that kind of environment, as you know. Yeah, but if you can kind of just think things through in a little bit of a logical way, you know, it does help you. But anyway, I got to the stage where I was still a little bit underconfident about doing the instrument rating test, and I thought, well, and I spoke to my instructor and said, look, you know, how about if I just, you know, leave the course now, all right, come back, finish off in the summer, for example, you know. And he said, well, you can do that if you want to. He said, but you know, the last detail you flew was perfectly okay. I think you're ready for a test. And I actually had a word with the examiner, who happened to be seconded to Goodwood Flying School, where I was instructing at the time.
Yeah.
Was instructing because I got an instructor rating just to keep my hand in, you know, as we were going through recession at the time. And I needed to keep flying, really. So once, it's another story, but anyway, I had a word with him. Keith Pickett, his name was. He was a much feared kind of examiner. I think he hadn't passed anybody for 2 years at Oxford
Really?
for that instrument rating test. Yeah. But I think because I knew him, I was able to talk to him, and I explained to him how the course had gone and what I was thinking about maybe coming back. And he said, well, the only trouble with that is you're kind of starting, you know, again, because, you know, you built up a head of steam and, you know, you're ready for the test. If you do that, then it's like a backward step, really, and it's just delaying things. Yeah. So I went with it, and I thought, okay, I'll do it. You know, I'll do the test, and he passed me. I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe I passed. You know, because the problem was, because it was costing so much money. I mean, obviously, these, as I say, you know, you can't do your training that way. It's called, you know, it's called a self-improver route. You can't do it these days. It has to be a regulated, you know, process through an organised training school. And well, at least I think you can't do it that way anymore. Pretty sure. And you know, so, but I was thinking, if I don't pass this test, I'm going to sell my car, because I need to be able to take it again. And it's 360 quid an hour. That was in 1991. You know, so it's 34 years ago. You can imagine how much it costs these days. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to sell a car so I can do the test again. But when I passed, the first thing I thought was, thank God, I have to sell my car. But now,
sorry, how much did it actually cost you to get your instrument rating, to do that course and pass?
That was £10,000, that course.
£10,000?
Yeah. £10,000.
How often did you have to renew? Because you have to renew these things.
Every year. You have to renew
£10,000 every year to renew it?
Oh, no. It's £10,000 for the course.
Yeah.
And then obviously you do the test at the end of the course. And then once you've been issued with your instrument rating, in this case on the Seneca 2 twin engine aircraft, then it's a question of if you want to maintain it, your instrument rating, so you can exercise the privileges of instrument rating. Then you would have to submit yourself to a renewal. Okay, so that you'd have to hire the aircraft and book an examiner and have another test basically. So that would be, it wouldn't be £10,000 obviously, but because that £10,000 was in respect of the whole course.
Just a ballpark figure, would it be like in excess of £300-400?
Yeah, well, it'll be for the aircraft for an hour, which would be 360 quid in those days. Plus the cost of the examiner. That'd probably been about £50 for the examiner, so it's probably about £400. But I didn't actually renew it.
Every year you have to do that. Every year.
You would have to if you wanted to exercise the privileges of the instrument rating on that aircraft. Okay, but because I now had an instrument rating which I could put alongside my commercial pilot's license, I could apply for a job with an airline. So I thought, rather than fork out, I mean, I've remortgaged my house 3 times to do this, but I thought that the best thing for me to do was to just keep applying for a job, and when you move into a new environment, a new airline, in this case it was a company called Business Air in Scotland, flying the Saab 340, then they train you up, and revalidate your instrument rating on that aircraft type. So I kept costs as much as minimum as possible, but then I went on to fly for Business Air in Scotland on the Saab 340. It was my first aircraft. It was a twin engine 50-seater turboprop. And then I went down to the West Country and flew for a company called Bryman Airways on the Dash 8. It was another twin-engine turboprop aircraft, which was a fantastic job. It's just like a flying club down there. Really good fun, but it was good experience. But from there, I went to a company called Mosquitoes Limited and flew my first jet, which was the Canadair regional jet, CRJ 200, which was a 50-seater jet. I mean it was a shortened version of the one which very unfortunately, collided with the helicopter in the States.
What I've been unable to... Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the one that just crashed in Toronto. That was a CRJ.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that the aircraft type I flew was a much shortened version of the same one. So exactly the same cockpit layout, but that's a stretched version of that first aircraft type jet I flew,
If I could just sideline you there and just ask you one question. Can you remember if the wing was all one piece or it was 2 wings attached to the fuselage on the CRJs?
Oh, it probably, well, it's a good question. I don't know, actually. I can't give you the answer to that.
I can't remember. Okay.
I would imagine you'd sit a fuselage on top of the whole thing,
Yeah.
But,
I mean, the Mosquito was just one big wing and they just literally put the fuselage around it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but I think that's stronger that way, wouldn't it?
That's obviously the wing roots are incorporated within the fuselage, but I mean, as far as whether or not it's a whole one piece or not, I would imagine
going to break off. Not a chance.
No, I would imagine that they're independently secured to the to the fuselage, but anyway.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
You can use that as your homework. Look it up and tell me what the answer is.
I have tried that. I tried googling it. I can't find whether if the wing is one complete spar.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean,
if you've honestly, I thought you might have had a better idea than me.
No, I can't remember actually. It's a long time ago. I flew that aircraft.
Yeah, for sure.
So
as well.
That airline I flew for, Mosquitoes Limited in Birmingham, they went bust, and then I ended up with EasyJet flying the Airbus 320. And I was on that for about 10 years, probably.
10 years. Wow.
Yeah, probably 12 years. Yeah, because I was 6 years at Gatwick and 6 years in Milan, so 12 years.
Right. Yeah.
That's where I finished.
Milan's nice, isn't it? Top of the Italian, right in the Alps, just at the bottom of the Alps there.
I mean, Malpensa Airport. Yeah, it's nearer to the lakes than Linate, which is a bit further south from the city. But yeah, I was very fortunate to be based there. I mean, I did apply for it, and took about 2 years to get there because of a massive waiting list, as you can imagine, you know. And but it was great. I mean, I found a nice apartment overlooking Lake Maggiore up there. You know,
Very nice.
I know, with the mountains in the background, and it was just stunning. And I was just thinking, you know, I'm in heaven, really. But and it was a great operation out of Milan. But the thing was, after 6 months, you don't see that view. You know, you get so used to it. So, and then you come away and you appreciate what you had. You know. So,
yeah. You're getting fat on pizza and Italian food and things in there.
Well, they know how to make a pizza. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, I quite enjoyed Italian food anyway. But yeah, it was a good experience to be out there. You know, and
you're retired now, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're completely out of it. Finished.
Yeah.
And you did a bit of simulator work after you were semi-retirement, wasn't it?
I mean, I went,
because pilots don't actually pass their test in the plane, do they?
Sorry,
they do a type rating in the actual simulator, and they pass their. Am I right? Am I correct?
Yeah, it is type rating in the simulator.
They passed all their tests and get the type rating in the simulator, and you were the instructor examiner. Yeah, the
instructor. Yeah. I prepare the students for their test, basically. And so there were levels at which I could, you know, assess a student with regard to his progress, because I mean, there's different types of courses they can go on. They can go on what's called an MPL course, which I was involved with, multi-pilot license course, and that was broken into 3 sections. So you've got basic, intermediate, and advanced, and I think each level. For each level, you might have to do up to 20 simulator details, maybe more now, but up to about 20, something like that. Maybe I can't remember exactly. But the type of training that I was, you know, involved with students who go through those phases, and I might assess them at the end of each phase, until they get to the end of the advanced phase of training. Where they would then be submitted to an examiner for a test, and if they pass that test, they get their type rating, and they've been entitled them to fly the aircraft. Okay, so they go back to the airlines, and the airlines then train them on the aircraft. And usually, I think with EasyJet they do about 80 flights before they then are submitted to a check ride with a training captain, and if all goes well, then they're released onto the line. You know, so it's a fairly lengthy process from the beginning.
It is. You know. So when you get your type rating and you become first officer, co-pilot, what's a reasonable period of time before you get your command and your left-hand seat? What would you think is normal for
that? Probably 2,000 to 3,000 hours experience in total. With the minimum of about 2,000 hours on type, something like that. I mean, each airline has different requirements.
Yeah, of course.
And it depends on their, their demand for command. I mean, with EasyJet, I would say, you know, you could probably get a command within 3 years if you're competent. But obviously, you have to go through quite a vigorous selection process in order to get your command. But yeah, you know, it's the training at EasyJet, and I think, you know, most UK and European airlines especially, is very, very good. You know, so you know, it's a very thorough process for selection, and then onwards to, you know, to actually get your command. Yeah, so yeah.
So you have flown to pretty much all the airports EasyJet do, pretty much, I would have imagined.
Yeah,
I mean, you've been a lot of maintenance at Malta now. I suppose you've been into Malta, have you, dropping planes off for maintenance?
No, not for maintenance, but I've flown to Malta a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, it's been 10 years now since I did any flying. Obviously, up until last year, I was involved in simulator training. But I mean, it's quite, actually, when I came down to Gibraltar, I was looking at their route network and thinking there's a lot of places I hadn't been to because they've expanded so much in that time, you know. And you know, I mean, being based in Milan, you kind of went everywhere because you're easy, within easy reach of the Middle East, North Africa.
Right in the middle, yeah. I remember looking at
areas
where they go when my Dawson was working as cabin crew. I think was it Iceland was the furthest away, and Egypt or somewhere like that. They didn't really seem to go much further than that.
Yeah, probably.
I saw, you know, they went all over Europe, obviously, everywhere, but it's all decent little. And I used to say to her, you know, well, she went, "Oh, where did you go today?" And she'd say, "Oh, some Greek island somewhere." And I said, "What was it like?" She goes, "I don't know."
No, you wouldn't.
The passengers off, tidy the cabin, passengers on, doors shut, you're off.
That's
You know,
it.
let's
It's
stick
busy.
your head out the door and think, "Oh, this is Cyprus or wherever." You know, oh, it's nice, isn't it?
I'm afraid so.
Gone.
They work hard, the cabin crew, without a doubt. They work hard, and you know they're going to probably some turnarounds are only 20 minutes. You know, so they've got to really go some. That's the pilots have to as well. But yeah, I remember going to Budapest once, and I've only ever been there once, and I never saw it. The reason I never saw it was because in thick fog.
Right.
And we made an approach and landed in fog. And then
you've got that Cat 3, is it, auto land thing?
Cat 3 capability auto land, yeah. And,
that must be really weird doing that. I've never done that. No.
Well, it was at first, but then you obviously get used to the procedures, the operation, and obviously the confidence in the aircraft itself. You know, it's brilliant. Wow. It's just so good.
I'll tell you what I've seen recently. They've got these, because back in my day they had all dials on the dashboard, but I'm going there. Today we've got, see you later, dude. They've got all these computer screens, and you've got synthetic vision of the terrain actually on the screen, along with the instruments of the altitude, and you think, wow, it's like a flight simulator. You can actually see the runway ahead of you, even though you're looking out the window and there's nothing. You know, it's fog. I can't think of what the actual name for it is.
No, I don't know. It's probably more advanced technology that's been introduced since I did, you know.
Yes.
When I was training, it was basic training. If you like basic training, we didn't have the high tech modern stuff. It was just a basic Airbus A320 or the basic Boeing 737. I never trained on that, or never performed any training on that, because obviously I've never flown one. Don't know anything about them. But yeah, you know, but things have been gradually introduced to in the way of technology to aircraft that I'm not familiar with. You know, but I think in the simulators are being adapted to catch up in some way, but they're not critical. They're not critical for the type of training that I perform with these cadets. Because that part of it, with the more modern technology, will be done by the airline. Once they get back to the airline, they get them in the simulator, and they'd go through all that with them then. So although, you know, cadets come through, they do the basic, intermediate, and advanced training in this particular module. They get their type rating at the end of it, but it's not the finish. You know, they might get their instrument, they might get their airline transport part, the commercial pilot's license and instrument rating, like I did, but in a different way. But then they go to the airline, and it's up to the airline to actually treat and teach them, you know, on their own aircraft type, and with the technologies that have been introduced, you know, to the aircraft type since. I mean, I just think it's quite amazing now, you know. So
yeah, it's amazing what flight simulator technology has come on so much. I mean, I can remember you'd gone by then from Shoreham, but I started a flying club at Shoreham, and we had some computers in there, and we got very basic sort of Microsoft flights. It was just for doing instrument flying, VORs and DMEs and ADFs and things like this. These are all like steam driven. As you referred to it, as navigation.
Basic.
And we got the pilots in there, and they were just practicing on their instrument flying, you know, flying beacon hopping from Mayfield down to Seaford and stuff like this. And it's amazing how much it's come on since those days. You know, like I say, I did a lot of it in VR when I was feeling well, and I haven't done a bit for a while. But it's just so amazing. And this is stuff that people can buy. You know, if you've got a gaming PC and there's people out there want to be pilots, you know, they can just download these flight simulators, and they're absolutely amazing. They really are. They do copy the flight models as much as they, you know, it's tremendous. I always said when the flight simulator was out, I thought, when it comes out in VR, this is going to be a serious training aid. It really is.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have got it working for you when you were here, but I've had VR headset issues. Anyway, it's just my opinion. You know, I mean, you can jump in and fly for nothing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think
because you're at home now on your chair, aren't you? You can fly helicopters. You can do all kinds. There's so much out there.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you know, you could always tell those students or those cadets who came through who were proficient like that on that kind of software, because they had an eye for you know in adapting what they'd learnt in that way, and bring it onto the flight deck on the an Airbus A320, for example. You know, you could say in terms of their accuracy and the way you're looking at things. You know, it's quite noticeable, actually. You know, there's
a lot of potential airline pilots who buy programs, explain, you know, and they'll download the A320 and they'll spend hours in there flying that thing, hours and hours and hours, and they'll be really focused. They'll be flying it manually, you know, on instruments, and they'll be flying it on autopilot as you do, and they will totally focus and dedicate. You know, it's got to be a valuable training aid. I know the American Air Force trained pilots, they save hundreds and hundreds of hours in real airplanes, you know, in time and fuel and maintenance costs, just by training them in VR with the VR headsets on. And you see them all sitting in the classroom, you know, loaded chairs, and they've got a load of tasks to complete before they send them off to the real airplane, you know.
Yeah, I think it gives you a good start. I think for sure in terms of of scanning. You know, because that's
it was always good for instrument flying, always.
Yeah, that's the main thing, because this is something that people come into training need to improve on. You know, their scan rates, and because you can get your scan rate going. And for those who wonder what we're talking about, it's really sort of interpreting the information you get from all your flight instruments together. That's right. That's the best way of actually describing that. But, you know, is a method of scanning your instruments, and it really is very effective. And the quicker you can scan, the more capacity that you have to deal with anything else, you know, that's going on in your environment. You know, so you're not fixated on just flying the instruments, but you're aware of everything else that's going on around you and what people are saying to you, whether it's air traffic controller, your colleague, or whatever, you know. So it's a good, I think it's a really good start for people if they want to do that. And of course, the difference comes when you've done about 4 or 5 simulator details on a fixed base simulator, and then you put the motion on. Because it all
of course you don't get
the same, but it's quite disorientating because there's a bit of feel involved now. You know? So,
Well, we had guys, you know, they'd have the torch on their head because half the lights didn't work on the dials, and they'd be off with their map, the VFR map, and they'd be off to, like you say, Goodwood in the dark, you know, or wherever, and they had to fly around in and they'd be £100 plus the instructor, you know, and then they'd sit in the simulator and they'd be doing it for like nothing. You know, there was a queue of pilots all waiting to use the damn simulator. I'm thinking I should be charging for this. They're all flying with a blather in my flight simulator. So I started charging them £10 an hour in the end. And they still came. I started making more money out of the simulator than I did out of the planes.
Yeah,
that's probably an exaggeration, but I mean, you get the point. It was
Well,
really good.
potentially it could have been, yeah, but no, I mean, you know, you kept it going for a while, didn't you? I mean, how many hours did you get in the end? You know, what was your total log time? Do you remember?
Not a lot. It was about 1,200, I think. That was all.
That's quite a bit. Yeah, it's a fair chunk of hours.
The thing that what I finished up, I left it all and went off with Fiona.
Yeah.
And then when we started a family, there was no money available for flying. So, you know,
but it's good to have.
I've got kids to support, and you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So really, that was the end. That was the end of. I did flying after that, but not a tremendous amount. I mean, I was caning it, as you know, when I came to you. You know, originally, you know, we were just doing it every day. We were just flying every day, doing another weather permitting, or sitting in the bar wishing we were doing it.
Yeah. Well, they were good days, weren't they? Really enjoyed those days.
It was a great time. I mean, Shoreham back in those days was very different.
Brilliant, wasn't it?
Today.
Yeah.
You know, there was the atmosphere, there was the people, there was all the characters, and it was a busy little place, wasn't it? I mean, there was a lot of pilots wanting to fly in those days, and it did get busy. It got really busy. And the atmosphere was great. The air shows every summer. I mean, we spent the whole summer pretty much flying, getting that PPL out of the way. I mean, all right, it was only 40 or 50 hours, something like that, but it seemed longer.
Yeah, I have to say at Shoreham was probably some of my happiest memories there, and yet I got paid the least, you know, but it didn't matter. I had a great time, really, you know, meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of good fun flying, you know, sort of instructing as well, of course, and you know, and well, that's how you know we hooked up, wasn't we? You know, so and we've been friends ever since. So
beers at night, we'd be having beers at night. I mean, it was a full day thing. We'd be having dinner there at the restaurant. It was a proper good. I mean, those days will never ever come back. They're gone.
No.
People are gone. People are gone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we'd have lost contact completely if it hadn't been for social media.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Finding each other and making contact again and chatting away and doing that stuff. You know, I mean, ships pass in the night, don't they? And you know, that's how it always was, I suppose, until social media came along, and then you can re-find people, and you tend to re-find a lot of people you didn't like. And well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, it is a good place to end where we started at Shoreham.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a fantastic time. I mean, there was lots going on at Shoreham in those days as well. Remember, they did Poirot episodes. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
And I mean, since then, they've done a lot of filming. I believe lots of episodes of The Crown were filmed at Shoreham. You know, they called it London. They took the sign down that said Shoreham, and they put London Airport, and they superimposed some enormous aeroplanes that never get in at Shoreham, and have them climbing on board. But it was very clever the way the film studios do that. The editing, the different shots, and the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh taking off and landing from. I think when she came back from Africa after she became Queen when her father died, they filmed all that at Shoreham, and of course. Probably would have been Croydon, wouldn't it, at the time? Croydon's gone. I mean, it's not there anymore. But they do a lot because it's an Art Deco building. There was a lot of that sort of thing, and we'd all just sit off in the background watching, and it was fascinating. It was fascinating, some of the stuff.
I thought it was great, but as you say, I mean, it's changed now completely. You know, everything is so restricted, isn't it? But having said that, you know, it's still, if I'm down that way, I like to pop in and have a breakfast in the main terminal building or something. You know, it's really good. Yeah.
Well, they closed the bars. I think that's what killed the place. We closing the bars, didn't it? You know, the only bar remained, and they were a bit funny in there, weren't they? Yeah. And I think the air show itself was such a big thing. It was something to look forward to the whole. A whole year, and I think that crash with the Hawker Hunter, you said finished the place. I mean, there was no more air shows, was there? I mean, it was the Royal Air Force Association, was it RAFA that used to organise the air show every year. And they had a fantastic show. They had some really good aeroplanes, really interesting aeroplanes that came along. The Blenheims, Lysanders, you know, there's aerobatic teams. They had everything. It was a really, really good show over 2 days, wasn't it?
It was excellent show. Really good. Yeah, it's just such a shame, you know.
Yeah.
Following that dreadful crash, of course, you know, that in 2016, I think that was, wasn't it? It was quite some time ago.
I was horrified watching that. I actually knew a guy who was killed. I mean,
did you?
He wasn't a friend of mine, but I mean, I knew him. I'd worked with him in the past because we did some jobs for a guy who did wedding cars. Paul it was called, and he had these Harvest Moon Beetles, you know, with the retractable roof.
Yeah,
and they were very popular at the time. I'm talking about early 2006, 2007, around there somewhere, and. We did a lot of weddings. Me and the wife did them. You know, we'd take people to the church and pick them up from the church, take them to the reception, and come home. And people had paid good money for it, and it was good. It was good money. So we enjoyed doing that, and that's how we met this guy called Morris. Morris had he's an ex-paratrooper. He had this big beige and I think it was burgundy, big old wedding car. And you'd see him everywhere. We did quite a few wedding festivals together and got chatting to him. We did a few weddings together as well. So we knew him. It wasn't really a friend, but we knew him as Morris. We chatted to him. He knew us. We worked together. And then when the air show disaster happened, we were looking at the wreckage. And of course, we were in Gibraltar and we're looking at photographs in all the newspapers. And there's this car. This wedding car sat at the traffic lights, all destroyed. And I went, no. And I said to Fiona, look at this. Is that Morris's car? And she's like, well, there can't be two of them in Sussex. You know what I mean? There was only one that we knew of. And it was him. He stopped. He was on his way to pick up a bride.
Yeah, I remember that particular story. Yeah.
That was that. Good night, Vienna.
But bloody awful, terrible. I mean, of course, they haven't had an air show since then, which is a great shame. But I don't know why. Well, obviously, you can understand why. Maybe they wouldn't have one for a few years until the whole thing had been investigated, and obviously the pilot was brought to court, wasn't he, and prosecuted.
He got not guilty, I believe, at the end of the day.
He did. But I think more recently, though, because it's 2016, wasn't it? It's about 9 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
And I think, well, I don't know if there are any sort of moves afoot to actually restore the air show there, or whether that's it, whether there'll never be one there again. I don't know. A shame.
Well, I know the airport manager had visions of the place becoming commercial, and it would never become commercial. The runways were too short, and there was nowhere to extend them. Nowhere. The river at one end, you've got the railway line at the other end of the main runway.
Yeah.
Nowhere to extend them. The runway was 1,100 feet. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2103.
Yeah, very long. Yeah, I think you're right. 1,100 feet or so.
It had the grass next to it, didn't it? And
I can't remember. I think good had
a because of magnetic.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's changed all the numbers. It's confused me. So I'm going back to 96 in my head. Yeah, but there was nowhere to. I mean, I think the biggest thing that could get in there commercially was the Learjet or a Cessna Citation, something like that.
Yeah, something small. Yeah.
That was just too small. The airport manager wanted to maintain it as a commercial airport and pay taxes and licenses as a commercial airport, and I think he just killed the place because it was never going to be that way. It could never have been that way, which is a great shame. It should have stayed. Oh, it's my wife. She can say hello. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Fiona.
Which is where I met Fiona at Shoreham Airport.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Shoreham Airport.
Yeah.
Loads of
it was
great.
Yeah, we were just talking. Happy memories there. Really was quite a place, wasn't it?
It was.
in the
Oh,
90s.
nothing like it. There was a sort of magic at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There was. I was saying to Graham that in the time that I spent there, I had the most fun and got paid the least. Didn't I? Because I just enjoyed it so much.
I really having fun.
It was
Yes,
great.
I wasn't golfing, but we didn't get paid a great deal doing that. But
No.
that's how we got paid enough, and
Yeah.
we really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. The social life was great,
I think
Well,
I got paid.
The social life at Shoreham Airport was great. I'm not sure Dolphins
that's
Park
not- that's not-
particularly great.
Well, it had its moments. It had its moments. But I remember hangars, aeroplane hangars being built, and within 2 or 3 years there was no airplanes in them, and they've been taken over by a laundry company.
Mm.
And it was doing people's washing and commercial washing, and you think, well,
Blimey. Really?
you really want
Yeah, do you not remember that, Richard?
aviation related?
I don't.
Yeah.
No.
No, that was
God
probably
almighty. Yeah.
I suppose there's more money in laundry.
and things
Well.
just closed. Things just slowly decayed, and the more industrial units were popping up, and nothing
Yeah.
to do with aviation. The people that were renting the
No, it's just a money generating
Yeah,
idea,
I
wasn't
mean-
it, to maintain the airport, I suppose. But,
But yeah, I think it's always run at a loss, which is a shame.
yeah.
People
Yeah,
have
great
tried
show.
various ideas, haven't they? Northern College has sort of consumed a lot of it, I think.
yeah,
now.
but that was aviation related,
Yeah.
to be fair. So that was okay. But I mean, I guess commercially, you've just got to put up with non-aviation stuff going on to pay the bills. But I mean,
Yeah.
why would
Yeah.
you? If you hadn't have gone for the airport managers, if you hadn't have gone for the commercial status and just had it as a private airfield, it would have turned a profit, I'm sure.
Oh, I don't know. I really like John. I'm
Yeah,
not sorry for him.
I had a few fallouts with him, but it turned out in the end he was all right. He was being wound up and played by others in the background.
I thought he was a sweet guy.
But I think I could have run it better, the airport. Honestly, I could.
You probably could have done.
I would have definitely made money doing that.
Maybe.
You would have been very innovative, as I described to you recently. You're very innovative.
Inimitable style. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
And it would have been interesting to see what you could have done with that place. But
I mean, the Southern Air building, the whole building that they had. I mean, they rented a few rooms out upstairs, and which is fair enough. And downstairs there was the bar and the social life. And as soon as they closed the bar, took the license away.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you use it for?
yeah.
Halfway, we're going to sell some sandwiches and Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah, it was a lovely bar, that.
Killed the social life.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I've gone down there and looked at the place, and I thought it's not open as a bar anymore. And the other bar, Premier Bar, I think that is something to do with aviation. But I think last time I saw it, it was advertising spare parts for Piper Cherokees and things. They sell nuts and bolts and
I thought it
cables
was for
and
plumbing.
things. And had it gone to plumbing?
Yeah, I remember we looked through there were windows in the doors. Everybody did it. They'd go in and they'd look to see who's in the bar. Oh, is there anyone worth having a gossip with? You would just naturally do it before you walked in. And it was so weird. You walk up to those windows and you just see a load of racks of nuts and bolts, and I could remember all the people being in there. It was awful.
Yeah. Terrible. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
Rita died, very sadly. Do you remember?
Remember Tony and Rita? They used to run Premier.
Tony and Rita? No, I can't remember.
They were
them.
right characters.
Not Tony Watson, not him. He didn't run it, did he?
Yeah.
Yes, Tony Watson.
Tony Watson? Has he
And
passed away?
his wife Rita, they used to run Premier Flying School.
Yeah.
They had the flying school was on one side of the stairs, and they had the bar as well. And they called it.
No, they got
Premier.
the bar later. He might not have been there then, and they
Right.
did it all up as it was like a big unit.
Yeah.
And
Where Southern Air was, they were upstairs. and the main hangar at the back.
Yeah,
So,
I remember Tony being up there.
They had
Tony
Premier
Watson we're talking about.
on the corner, and my Baron Flying Club was on the other corner. So there was their Premier Bar, Premier Flying School, and then there was the Baron Flying School that was there. So we had all downstairs with him. Me and Tony and Rita got on really well.
I remember you being down in that building, yeah. Pardon?
We used to drink in there all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and all the police and the helicopters and they all used to drink in there. So you
they're on the hangar next door, weren't they?
They had the hangar. We were quite close.
Yeah.
They'd all walk in with Lumo jackets on, with police on the back, and helicopter unit and paramedic and things like this. And I got a Lumo jacket and I put criminal in the window. And I went in and they were standing there, because they were all standing there. They all started pissing, laughing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, they didn't care. They didn't care. They just wanted a beer. But it was such a good atmosphere. You could all have a great chat. And
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was good.
Great.
Yeah.
It's just all
good times.
I
can't believe it was 30 odd years ago. I really, just frightening, really. You know.
Yeah.
It was that long ago. Yeah. You know.
Anyway, all the characters gone, even the ones we didn't like, they've all gone.
Is it Atlantic at Blackpool?
Yeah.
You're going to fill it up then? How much is that hold? Do you reckon my twin rating would call me for that?
Navigator in, look. At the cockpit. What?
Alright, Chris.
Ready for the jump, mate?
Ready, mate, ready.
I'll jump out, it's about my height.
Yeah.
About 3 foot.
To walk uphill. Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting there waiting to jump out.
Doesn't look very big up here, does it?
Don't get much of a view, do you?
I reckon this would be easy to fly, you know.
Do you?
Yeah. It's all dead basic, isn't it? Look at it.